Welcome to Inside ELAS, the podcast where we explore how AI is transforming the way we do literature reviews. I'm your host, Josien Boetje, and with me is ASReview founder and AI expert, Rens van der Schoot.
Welcome.
Each episode, we talk to researchers, students, and practitioners about their experiences using AI-assisted screening with ASReview, the highs, the hurdles, and everything in between. Whether you're into systematic reviews or just curious about how an algorithm ended up helping with your reading list, you're in the right place. Today, we're joined by Jelle Tijema, data scientist for ASReview, and Peter Lombaars, software developers 1 day a week at ASReview and the other days at Global Campus. Welcome to both of you.
Thank you.
Thank you for the invite.
Yes, we're very happy to have you here. Our very first guest today, and already very interesting ones, I think, Rens. Yes?
Yeah, I think so too.
And of course, you already have some experience with ASReview, so I'm very curious how it all started. And maybe, Peter, you can start. Like, where did your ASReview journey start?
Yeah, so 5 years ago almost, I went to work at Global Campus. And they have this policy that they have their employees sort of stationed at a university group 1 day a week to learn to interact with different environments and bring back some knowledge also to the company. So one of my bosses had contact with Rens, and they thought, why don't you go there? And then I think one of the specific reasons was that ASReview was doing things with active learning, and we wanted to also do something with active learning. So that was
so win-win. So actually,
yes.
Global Campus paid you for that day.
Yeah, and they still
Awesome.
do. So the last 5 years, 1 day a week, I'm here paid by Global Campus.
Perfect to contribute to an open source project.
Yeah,
and still bring some knowledge to the company.
Yes, exactly.
That sounds awesome. What about you, Jelle?
So I did my master's thesis at Utrecht University, which is also the breeding ground for ASReview, and I stuck around. So currently I'm working on my PhD, and I'm looking at the models and active learning in ASReview, seeing if we can optimize the way we use this AI.
Yeah. And what about some current project, for example, the last month or months? What
right
took all
now,
of your time?
right now, everything is ASReview version 2.0.
Yes.
So for me, it's mostly just small bug fixes, and we have a working version, and then we let people test, and then they come back with problems, and then we try to fix them.
Yeah. Can you already give a little scoop about the new features or things you're developing? What was maybe the most difficult thing to develop that for a user might be, oh, that's something I want to have, and then it takes you so much time?
So I work a lot on how the data is stored in the backend.
Yeah.
And there we did a lot of thinking about how can you make this work when there's multiple users. So in version 1, we mostly had one person can do a review at the same time. And now we are moving to multiple people can work on the same project. And you want the data that comes out of that to be clearly stored, and you want to know who did what.
Yes.
So there went quite some thinking into how can we do that technically.
Yeah, technically. And do you also work on the 2.0, or is it mainly your own project?
Yes, 2.0, and for me it aligns really well with my PhD, so that's nice. We've been looking at machine learning models that we use. There's been a lot of development in the kind of models we use, so more complex models. But for ASReview, it's very important to stay reproducible.
Can you explain a little bit more about the models? For example, what is a more complex model?
So for us, the very simple models, the models that are easy to explain. So lightweight models that are quick to compute, work really well. But we're still looking at more complex models that have more computing power, are less easy to explain, so that's also a drawback. But might get
and explain to whom?
To the users. So ASReview is a platform for scientists, first and foremost. So it's important that the decisions that are made, whether it be by the human or the AI, can be reproduced and explained.
Yeah.
So you don't make decisions that afterwards you can't explain why it happens. So reproducibility is a very big thing, just like Peter said. So I guess in that sense, we're both working on reproducibility.
Yeah. And how do you test or validate these new models before they're being introduced into ASReview?
Testing and validating is I know I'm a data scientist, so I might be biased in this regard, but it's data. So it's benchmarking, running simulations, getting user interaction. But mostly it's just get a lot of data sets. And there we have a very big, very well curated data sets of records, and we look at the performance, see what happens, see what settings work.
What kind of metrics are we talking about? Does it work? What does that mean? For me as a user, I think when I save some time doing my screening, for example.
Saving time is definitely one of the metrics we use.
Yeah.
Of course, the final goal is to save some time. But we've developed some of our own metrics. We've used some metrics in the field. So, of course, we're in academia, so we wouldn't be here without other literature. We take metrics from the field, but we also use things like loss, which is the metric of how well could the performance have been. So if the model was perfect, how would the performance be? How is our performance, and how far are we away removed from this perfect situation?
And what are some of the trade-offs you've encountered between speed or accuracy and usability, for example, in the development of 2.0?
So one thing is that Jelle was talking about these more complex models, and they also just take a longer time to train. So when you label something in ASReview, we start a model based on those labeling decisions in the past, and if it's a more simple model, that one is done very quickly, like before you even notice. If it's a more complex model, it will take a while. And technically, that means that we now set up this server in the backend, and we send a request to the server, and then the model starts training in the backend. And before everything could run on the same process, it was less complicated.
And for usability, what does it mean? Because you say it takes time to train a model. What does that mean for the user?
So we try to make it so that you don't notice this.
Okay.
So that's the challenge.
That's new, right?
It was before, I think, as well. But now what happens in the background is much more complicated. But hopefully you still don't really notice it. The only thing you notice is that the records that ASReview suggests you, they might come from a different model in the background.
Mm-hmm.
So if you suddenly decide to switch and use a more complex model, then at some point you might start seeing a different type of records than you were seeing before.
And how do you know as a user, for example, when to switch? Because it's a very nice option, but how would I know when to switch? I want quick. So let me do this lightweight model.
It's a difficult question. It's something we've been working on for a while. So we work with something called a stopping rule.
Yes.
So we set this heuristic based on where you are in the process, how many relevant records did you find in the last 10, 50, 100 records, how many irrelevant ones. And based on that, you can make a very educated guess on how far you are along in the process. So usually when you start your screening process, the model, the machine learning needs to warm up. Then after you have found some records, the machine learning will really take off and you will only find relevant records. But this ratio from relevant to irrelevant will shift as you go through the data set and take out all the relevant records that are unlabeled. You will be left with more irrelevant records. So this ratio will go down, and for example, you can say if in the last 50 records I haven't found any relevant records, it might be a very good sign that your current model is depleted. This can be because your data set is depleted, so there are no more relevant records in this data set. But it could also mean that the machine learning model that you're currently using has been used up, has been depleted in its efficiency. Yeah. And if you want more relevant records, you need a different way of looking at the information that you still have left.
So it could be like a safeguard to be sure that it was not the data, but it could be the model that was depleted.
Yes.
To switch. But you also talked about now screening with multiple screeners at the same time. But I wondered, how do I do this? For example, when I'm in a company and I want to use ASReview, but before I had to install it on my computer using Python. But what's new?
In version 2, we've been working hard on having this server version of ASReview that you no longer need to, like every person needs to install ASReview on their own personal work laptop. But you can have, as a company, install it in one place in a server and then let people log into the server, maybe using the authentication that you already have in-house, so that you don't need a specific password just for ASReview. Yeah. And then people can just go there and screen there, and they get to see only the projects that they are working on or that their team is working on.
Yeah. Do you have any advice for someone who's listening? I like that, but I'm a user. I don't know how to do this technically. Who should they be talking to within their company or institute?
So my first advice would be go to the ASReview users meetings. There's always people there that know things.
Yes.
In
and Utrecht. Yeah.
Exactly. And if that's not an option, also online, you can ask questions on GitHub. And in just inside your company or institute, like the IT department is the one that should take the lead in installing this in a server.
Yeah, nice. And we're working on very innovative project, of course. What excites you most about being part of this, and also maybe future endeavors you would like to be part of?
So for me, it's very important to work in a workspace, in a playground that's open source, that's has academic background, but I want to make usable software. So what really excites me is the fact that everything I code is used, is shared with users. There are many users around the world. I'm not sure what the download count is at right now.
Yeah, that's no.
Ooh, the last time I checked, it was 250,000 or something.
Wow!
But this is installs via Python. So
yeah,
how many times did you install Python?
Okay,
new laptop, but still, it's
okay. Fair enough.
It's used.
Yeah. So it's used quite a lot of users, and I really like the idea that the work I do isn't just stored on some closed off repository and never looked at again. Because that's an issue with a lot of big companies. You code something, and if you're lucky, it ends up in the final product. Most often, it doesn't. So working open source, contributing to the knowledge base that we have, it's a very academic standard. But for me, that's really key and why I like working with ASReview.
Yeah. What about you, Peter? Because you come from a company, so
yes.
You might have different motivation.
One thing I like is just the community of ASReview. We work every Thursday in the same place together with a group, and there's always different people. So it's just very dynamic and nice to see this changing environment. And then at the same time, I think we make a really nice project, and it's nice to work on a team that's making good stuff.
Definitely.
Great. Well, we have more good stuff lying here around the table, because you may have noticed that we've got a fun tradition here on the podcast, that our ELAS Adventure sticker collection. And each of the guests can think of a new sticker you would like to add to the collection. So, do you have anything what's on your bucket list for our new ELAS sticker collection?
My first thought is some chess themed ELAS sticker. So I'm an avid chess player, so that one doesn't exist yet. I'm not sure what it should be, but that should be the theme.
Great. What about you? What's on your bucket list?
I'm drawing a blank. I'm just looking around, and I was going to say I want a sci-fi themed one. We already have that. I want a Superman one. We already have that. I want Santa.
It's already there, right? We have so much.
A lot of stickers.
And you also created a lot of them using AI, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a huge collection, and I think at this point you can fetch quite a big sum if you have the entire collection, because we've gone through some iterations. So,
original first edition ASReview stickers.
Those are very rare.
That brings us to the end of this episode of Inside ELAS. If you enjoyed this episode, share it with your fellow researchers, supervisors, or that one colleague who still screens everything manually. We see you. For more stories, updates, and insights, follow us and stay tuned. ELAS can't wait to expand its community, making its little digital heart positively pulsing in binary with joy.